What if I told you that one ordinary-looking Jefferson nickel could be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Most people spend these coins every day without ever checking them. But hidden among millions of 1996, 2001, and 2002 Jefferson nickels are a few rare examples that collectors are desperately searching for. The shocking part is that many of these valuable coins are still sitting in old jars, piggy banks, wallets, and even pocket change. Today we're going to reveal the truth about 3 Jefferson nickels that every collector should know. We'll uncover their real history, explain the rare mint errors that make some of them valuable, show you how to identify the famous full steps variety, and reveal the market values collectors are paying today. You might have one of these coins without even realizing it. But here's the most important part. Not every 1996, 2001, or 2002 Jefferson nickel is valuable. A tiny detail, sometimes so small that you need a magnifying glass to see. It can make the difference between a coin worth just 5 cents and one worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. That's why you should never rush to spend your old nickels before checking them carefully. In this video, I'll show you exactly what to look for, the mistakes people make when identifying rare coins, the genuine mint errors that collectors chase, and how professional grading can dramatically affect a coin's value. By the end of this video, you'll know how to examine your own Jefferson nickels like an experienced collector. So grab your old coins, stay with me until the very end, because the next valuable Jefferson nickel could already be in your collection. Let's get started. Before you spend that ordinary-looking nickel sitting in your pocket, watch this video until the end, because one small coin, worth only 5 cents, has surprised collectors by selling for hundreds, and in rare cases, even thousands of dollars. The amazing part is that many people have owned this coin without ever realizing its true potential. Today, we're talking about the 1996 Jefferson nickel, a coin that millions of Americans used every day. But among those millions, a few special examples have become highly desirable because of their condition, mint errors, and unique characteristics. Imagine finding a coin in an old jar, a piggy bank, or a forgotten drawer, only to discover that collectors are willing to pay far more than its face value. Sounds unbelievable? It happens more often than you think. Every year, rare Jefferson nickels are discovered in circulation, and many of them are still hiding in ordinary collections. In today's video, we'll uncover the real history of the 1996 Jefferson nickel, explain how it was made, reveal the rare errors collectors search for, discuss the famous full steps variety, explore auction results, and show you exactly how to check whether your coin could be worth much more than 5 cents. Make sure you stay until the end, because one small detail could make all the difference. Let's begin. The Jefferson nickel is one of the longest-running coin series in United States history. Since 1938, it has featured Thomas Jefferson on the front and his historic home, Monticello, on the back. By 1996, the design had already become familiar to millions of Americans, and billions of these coins had passed through cash registers, vending machines, and everyday transactions. At first glance, the 1996 Jefferson nickel appears completely ordinary. Most people spend it without giving it a second thought. But experienced coin collectors know that value is determined by much more than the date printed on the coin. Small differences in condition, strike quality, mint mark, and production errors can dramatically change how much a collector is willing to pay. In 1996, Jefferson nickels were struck at 2 major United States mint facilities. Philadelphia produced coins without a mint mark, while Denver struck coins carrying the small D mint mark. Both mints produced hundreds of millions of nickels, making them common in circulation. However, despite the large mintage, not every coin was made exactly the same. Tiny differences created during production have made certain examples much more desirable than others. Many collectors make the mistake of assuming that an old coin is automatically valuable. In reality, rarity comes from a combination of factors. A coin may be common, but if it survives in exceptional condition or carries a genuine mint error, its value can increase significantly. That is exactly why the 1996 Jefferson nickel continues to attract attention in the collecting community. One of the biggest reasons collectors search for this coin is the possibility of finding a full steps example. On the reverse side, Monticello has steps leading up to the building. On most circulated nickels, these steps become weak or worn, But when all the steps remain fully visible and sharply struck, collectors classify the coin as a full-step specimen. These coins are much harder to find because they require both an outstanding strike from the mint and careful preservation over many years. A beautiful 1996 Jefferson Nickel with full steps and a high professional grade can sell for many times more than an ordinary circulated example. This is why grading and preservation play such an important role in modern coin collecting. When the United States Mint began producing the 1996 Jefferson Nickel, its purpose was simple. It was designed for everyday commerce, just like the billions of nickels that had come before it. No one at the Mint expected that decades later, collectors would carefully inspect these same coins under magnifying glasses, searching for tiny details that could make them far more valuable than their face value. The 1996 Jefferson Nickel is composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, a composition that has been used for most Jefferson Nickels since the series began in 1938. Each coin weighs exactly 5 grams and measures 21.21 millimeters in diameter. Although these specifications seem ordinary, maintaining them with precision is an important part of the minting process. The journey of every 1996 nickel started with massive coils of metal. These coils were fed into powerful blanking machines that punched out perfectly round discs called blanks. At this stage, the metal pieces looked nothing like coins. They were simply smooth circles waiting to be transformed. Next, the blanks went through an annealing process, where they were heated to soften the metal. After cooling, they were cleaned and polished before entering the upsetting mill. This machine raised a small rim around the edge of each blank. That raised rim would later help protect the coin's design from wear during circulation. Finally, each prepared blank entered a high-speed coin press. 2 engraved dies came together with tremendous force, striking the design onto both sides of the blank in a fraction of a second. The obverse die created Thomas Jefferson's portrait, while the reverse die impressed the famous Monticello building. Every minute, hundreds of nickels rolled off these presses and entered bags for shipment across the United States. Although the minting process was carefully controlled, perfection was never guaranteed. Dies wore out, machines shifted slightly, and sometimes a planchet entered the press at an unusual angle. These small manufacturing problems created mint errors that collectors eagerly search for today. One of the most important terms every Jefferson Nickel collector should know is full steps. If you turn your coin over and look closely at Monticello, you'll notice a staircase beneath the building. On a perfectly struck coin, these steps appear complete and clearly separated from one another. However, because the dies gradually wore down during production, many nickels left the mint with weak or incomplete steps. Collectors place a premium on coins with fully defined steps because they indicate an exceptionally sharp strike. These coins are much harder to find than ordinary examples. Even if 2 nickels have the same date and mint mark, the full steps example can be worth many times more. Finding a full steps nickel in circulation today is extremely difficult because years of handling gradually wear away those fine details. That's why collectors carefully inspect every 1996 Jefferson Nickel they find. Another factor that influences value is the coin's overall condition. Professional grading services examine luster, surface preservation, strike quality, and eye appeal before assigning a grade. A coin graded mint state 65 is generally worth more than one graded mint state 63, while exceptional examples graded MS 67 or higher can command impressive prices in the collector market. This is why experienced collectors always recommend never cleaning an old coin. Cleaning may make a coin appear brighter, but it usually leaves microscopic scratches that reduce its collectible value. In many cases, a naturally toned coin is worth more than one that has been polished. The 1996 Jefferson Nickel teaches an important lesson in coin collecting. Rarity is not always about age. A modern coin can become highly desirable if it combines outstanding preservation, a sharp strike, and a genuine mint error. That combination is exactly what advanced collectors hope to discover. But the real excitement begins when we examine the rare mint errors that escape quality control. Some of these errors are so unusual that collectors compete fiercely whenever one appears for sale. Now comes the part that excites almost every coin collector. While millions of ordinary 1996 Jefferson Nickels were struck, a very small number left the mint with mistakes. These mistakes are known as mint errors. And unlike damage that happens after a coin enters circulation, true mint errors occur during the manufacturing process. Because they are genuine mistakes made by the mint, collectors often pay significant premiums for them. The first error you should know is the double die error. This happens when the working die receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation. As a result, certain parts of the design appear doubled. On a genuine double die, you may notice extra thickness or clear doubling in the letters of "In God We Trust," Liberty, the date 1996, or even parts of Jefferson's portrait. Under a magnifying glass, the doubling should look sharp and well-defined, not blurry like ordinary machine doubling. Authentic doubled die nickels are highly collectible, depending on the strength of the doubling, the condition of the coin, and whether it has been certified by a professional grading service. Values can range from $50 to several $100s, while exceptional certified examples may sell for even more. Another fascinating mint error is the off-center strike. During striking, the blank is supposed to sit perfectly in place between the dies. If it shifts before being struck, part of the design will be missing while a blank, crescent-shaped area remains visible. The value of an off-center nickel depends on how far off-center it is. A small shift may only bring a modest premium, but dramatic off-center strikes showing the full date are much more desirable and can sell for hundreds of dollars. Next is the broad strike error. Normally, a retaining collar surrounds the blank during striking, giving the coin its correct diameter and raised rim. If the collar fails to engage, the coin spreads outward under pressure, creating a coin that is wider than normal with little or no raised edge. Broad-struck nickels are easy to recognize because they look noticeably larger and flatter than ordinary examples. Collectors also search for clipped planche errors. Before coins are struck, circular blanks are punched from long metal strips. Occasionally, one blank overlaps the edge of another, producing a coin with a curved section missing from its edge. Because this error happens before striking, the missing area becomes part of the finished coin. Genuine clipped planches usually show a distinctive Blakesley effect, which helps experts confirm the error. At first glance, the 2001 Jefferson Nickel appears to be an ordinary 5-cent coin. Millions of Americans used it every day to buy groceries, pay for coffee, or receive change at the checkout counter. Because it was so common, most people never imagined it would become a coin that collectors carefully examine decades later. The Jefferson Nickel series began in 1938, replacing the famous Buffalo nickel. Designed by sculptor Felix Schlag, the coin honored Thomas Jefferson, III, President of the United States and the author of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson remained on the front of the coin for decades, while his historic home, Monticello, appeared on the reverse. By 2001, this classic design had become one of the most recognizable coins in American history. During 2001, the United States Mint produced Jefferson nickels at 2 facilities. The Philadelphia Mint struck coins without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint produced coins with the small d mint mark. Together, these mints produced hundreds of millions of nickels for circulation, ensuring there would be enough coins for everyday commerce across the country. Because so many were produced, many people assume every 2001 Jefferson nickel is worth only 5 cents. That assumption, however, is not always correct. In coin collecting, value is determined by much more than mintage. A coin's condition, strike quality, rarity, and mint errors all play an important role in determining what collectors are willing to pay. One of the biggest reasons collectors search for the 2001 Jefferson nickel is the possibility of finding a full steps example. On the reverse side of the coin, beneath Monticello, are a series of steps leading to the building. On most nickels, these steps are weak or partially worn, but when all the steps remain fully visible and sharply struck, the coin may qualify for the prized full steps designation. Finding a genuine full steps example is much harder than most people realize. Not only must the coin leave the mint with an exceptionally sharp strike, but it must also avoid years of heavy circulation that would wear away those tiny details. Because of this, certified full steps nickels often command much higher prices than ordinary examples. Another reason collectors enjoy searching for the 2001 Jefferson Nickel is the possibility of discovering a genuine mint error. Throughout history, even the advanced machinery of the United States Mint has occasionally produced mistakes. Some coins were struck off-center. Others developed doubled lettering, die cracks, clipped planches, or other unusual characteristics. These errors escaped quality control and entered circulation, where they remain hidden among millions of ordinary coins. For many collectors, the excitement comes from the possibility that an ordinary handful of change could contain something truly special. Every roll of nickels from the bank, every old coin jar, and every inherited collection offers another chance to discover a valuable variety that someone else overlooked. And that's exactly why the 2001 Jefferson Nickel continues to attract attention today. It reminds us that valuable coins are not always ancient or made of silver or gold. Sometimes the greatest discoveries are hiding in plain sight. After learning the background of the 2001 Jefferson Nickel, it's time to understand how this small 5-cent coin was actually made. Every valuable coin begins the same way as an ordinary one. The difference is that sometimes a tiny variation during production or exceptional preservation transforms an everyday coin into a prized collectible. The 2001 Jefferson Nickel was struck using the same metal composition that has been used for most Jefferson nickels since 1946. Each coin contains 75% copper and 25% nickel, weighs 5.0 grams, and measures 21 millimeters in diameter. Although these numbers may seem ordinary, every coin produced by the United States Mint must meet these exact specifications. The minting process begins with huge rolls of copper-nickel alloy. Powerful blanking presses punch perfectly round metal discs from these sheets. At this stage, the discs are known as planchets. They are smooth, featureless pieces of metal with no design. The planchets are then heated in large furnaces through a process called annealing. Heating softens the metal, allowing it to receive a sharp impression from the dies during striking. After cooling, the planchets are cleaned, polished, and sent through an upsetting mill that creates a raised rim around each blank. Next comes the most important stage. The prepared planchet enters a coining press where two hardened steel dies strike it with tremendous pressure. The upper die creates the portrait of Thomas Jefferson, while the lower die forms the image of Monticello on the reverse. This entire process takes only a fraction of a second, yet every detail on the coin depends on the quality of that single strike. In 2001, billions of strikes were made across the Philadelphia and Denver mints. Even with modern machinery, the dies gradually wore down over time. As they wore, small details became weaker, which is one reason collectors pay close attention to strike quality. One of the most famous design features on the Jefferson Nickel is the staircase leading to Monticello. Under magnification, collectors count these tiny steps. If the steps are fully separated and uninterrupted, the coin may qualify for the highly respected Full Steps FS designation. The Full Steps designation is not awarded simply because a coin looks shiny. Professional grading companies carefully examine the staircase under magnification. Any heavy contact marks or interruptions across the steps usually prevent the coin from receiving the Full Steps label. This is why Full Steps examples are so valuable. Millions of 2001 Jefferson nickels were produced, but only a very small percentage display complete steps while also remaining in high, mint state condition. Collectors know that finding a genuine Full Steps nickel in circulation today is extremely difficult. Most coins spent years in pockets, cash registers, vending machines, and coin jars, gradually wearing away those delicate details. That's why certified Full Steps examples often attract strong bidding whenever they appear at auction. Another factor affecting value is the overall grade. Coins with bright original mint luster, sharp details, and very few contact marks receive higher grades from professional grading services. Difference of only one grade point can dramatically increase a coin's market value. This is also why experienced collectors strongly advise against cleaning coins. Cleaning may make a nickel appear brighter, but it usually leaves fine hairline, scratches that grading companies can easily detect. In many cases, a cleaned coin is worth less than one with natural toning and original surfaces. The 2001 Jefferson Nickel proves that modern coins can become valuable when outstanding preservation meets exceptional strike quality. However, condition is only one part of the story. The real excitement begins when a coin leaves the mint with a genuine production mistake. In the next part, we'll explore the most desirable 2001 Jefferson Nickel mint errors, including doubled die off-center strike, decrack, declash, clipped planchet, broad strike, lamination errors, and wrong planchet errors, and explain why collectors are willing to pay impressive premiums for these fascinating mistakes. Collectors also pay close attention to the coin's original mint luster, a coin that still displays its bright, untouched surface. After many years is much harder to find than one that has spent decades in circulation. High-grade mint state examples are always in greater demand. Now let's look at some of the genuine mint errors collectors search for. One of the best-known errors is the double die error. This occurs when the working die receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation. The result is noticeable doubling in the lettering, numbers, or parts of Jefferson's portrait. Genuine doubled dies show clear separation under magnification and are highly collectible. Another exciting error is the off-center strike. If the planche is not properly centered during striking, part of the design will be missing while a blank, crescent-shaped area remains visible. The farther off-center the strike is while still showing. The full date, the more valuable the coin usually becomes. Collectors also search for die crack errors. After thousands of strikes, tiny cracks may develop in the steel dies. These cracks leave raised lines on the finished coin. While small die cracks are fairly common, large and dramatic cracks crossing the design are much more desirable. Another fascinating variety is the die clash error. This happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other, without a planche between them. As a result, faint parts of one design become transferred to the opposite die, leaving unusual marks on later coins. Some collectors hope to discover a broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar fails to hold the planche during striking. Without the collar, the metal spreads outward, producing a coin that appears wider than normal and lacks a fully formed rim. Another valuable error is the clipped planche error. This happens before striking, when the blank is punched too close to the edge of the metal strip, leaving part of the coin missing. Genuine clipped planches are easy to recognize and are popular among error coin collectors. The rarest of all is the wrong planche error, where a Jefferson Nickel is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Because these mistakes are extremely unusual, certified examples can bring impressive prices whenever they appear at auction. One important thing every collector should remember is that damage is not the same as a mint error. Scratches, dents, corrosion, heat damage, and polishing happen after the coin leaves the mint and usually reduce its value. Genuine mint errors occur during production and should be authenticated before any value is assigned. This is why experienced collectors recommend using a magnifying glass, comparing your coin with normal examples, and having valuable finds certified by professional grading services. Collectors also pay close attention to the coin's original mint luster, a coin that still displays its bright, untouched surface. After many years is much harder to find than one that has spent decades in circulation. High-grade mint state examples are always in greater demand. Now let's look at some of the genuine mint errors collectors search for. One of the best-known errors is the double die error. This occurs when the working die receives a slightly misaligned impression during its creation. The result is noticeable doubling in the lettering, numbers, or parts of Jefferson's portrait. Genuine doubled dies show clear separation under magnification and are highly collectible. Another exciting error is the off-center strike. If the planche is not properly centered during striking, part of the design will be missing while a blank, crescent-shaped area remains visible. The farther off-center the strike is while still showing. The full date, the more valuable the coin usually becomes. Collectors also search for die crack errors. After thousands of strikes, tiny cracks may develop in the steel dies. These cracks leave raised lines on the finished coin. While small die cracks are fairly common, large and dramatic cracks crossing the design are much more desirable. Another fascinating variety is the die clash error. This happens when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other, without a planche between them. As a result, faint parts of one design become transferred to the opposite die, leaving unusual marks on later coins. Some collectors hope to discover a broad strike error, which occurs when the retaining collar fails to hold the planche during striking. Without the collar, the metal spreads outward, producing a coin that appears wider than normal and lacks a fully formed rim. Another valuable error is the clipped planche error. This happens before striking, when the blank is punched too close to the edge of the metal strip, leaving part of the coin missing. Genuine clipped planches are easy to recognize and are popular among error coin collectors. The rarest of all is the wrong planche error, where a Jefferson nickel is accidentally struck on a blank intended for another denomination. Because these mistakes are extremely unusual, certified examples can bring impressive prices whenever they appear at auction. One important thing every collector should remember is that damage is not the same as a mint error. Scratches, dents, corrosion, heat damage, and polishing happen after the coin leaves the mint and usually reduce its value. Genuine mint errors occur during production and should be authenticated before any value is assigned. This is why experienced collectors recommend using a magnifying glass, comparing your coin with normal examples, and having valuable finds certified by professional grading services. Now we've reached one of the most exciting parts of this guide, the real market value of the 2002 Jefferson Nickel. This is the question every collector asks. Is my coin worth more than 5 cents? The answer depends on several important factors, including condition, strike quality, mint mark, and whether the coin has a genuine mint error. The majority of 2002 Jefferson nickels that have been heavily circulated are still worth only their face value of 5 cents. These coins were produced in large numbers and remain common in everyday circulation. However, once a coin survives in exceptional condition, its value begins to increase. Collectors use a grading scale that ranges from poor, P1, to mint state, MS70. A coin in very fine or extremely fine condition may carry only a small premium, but an uncirculated coin with original mint luster is much more desirable. As the grade increases, the number of surviving examples decreases, making high-grade coins much harder to find. One of the most valuable qualities a 2002 Jefferson Nickel can have is the full steps FS designation. If the steps beneath Monticello remain complete and sharply defined, professional grading companies may award the coin the full steps label. Because only a small percentage of coins qualify, collectors are willing to pay significantly more for certified examples. A mint state 65 full steps coin can often sell for many times more than an ordinary circulated nickel. Even higher grades such as MS66 or MS67 full steps are much scarcer. Whenever one appears at a major auction, serious collectors compete aggressively because very few examples exist in such exceptional condition. Mint errors can increase value even further. A genuine double die error may sell for hundreds of dollars, depending on how strong the doubling is and whether the coin has been professionally authenticated. A dramatic off-center strike with the full date visible is another highly collectible error that can bring strong prices. Other desirable errors include broad strikes, clipped planchets, die cracks, die clashes, lamination errors, and the extremely rare wrong planche error. These mistakes occurred during the minting process and are far more desirable than ordinary post-mint damage. The rarer the error and the better the condition, the greater the collector demand. If you believe you have a valuable 2002 Jefferson Nickel, begin by examining it under bright lighting with a good magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, the mint mark, Jefferson's portrait, the lettering, and especially the steps of Monticello. Compare your coin with normal examples to see whether any unusual features stand out. If the coin appears to have a genuine mint error or is in exceptional uncirculated condition, avoid cleaning it. Cleaning almost always reduces collectible value because it damages the original surface. Instead, place the coin in a protective holder to prevent further wear. The next step is professional authentication. Certified coins generally inspire greater confidence among buyers because their authenticity and condition have been verified by experts. Certification also makes it easier to sell valuable coins through dealers, auctions, or online marketplaces. Many valuable discoveries begin in ordinary places. Collectors have found rare coins in old family collections, forgotten jars of change, bankrolls, estate sales, and even everyday pocket change. That's why experienced collectors continue searching through thousands of nickels every year. The next important discovery could still be waiting. The story of the 2002 Jefferson Nickel reminds us that coin collecting is about much more than money. Every coin carries a piece of American history, reflecting the craftsmanship of the United States. Mint and the journey each coin has taken through countless hands over the years. While most 2002 nickels remain ordinary, a select few have earned a special place in the collections of numismatists because of their outstanding quality or fascinating mint errors. Before you spend your next Jefferson nickel, take a closer look. That ordinary 5-cent coin could be the one collectors have been searching for. One careful inspection might reveal a hidden treasure that has gone unnoticed for